and we're doing Chapter 18, Local Government Law. And we're doing also Chapter 19, Taxes on Real Property. We're putting them together. This is from Lesson 14, Real Estate Trading Services course. And we are going to, I'll just tell you when we're separating these two things. Right in the middle. So here you go. We're doing local government law right now. Question 7. Before adopting, amending, or repealing a zoning bylaw, a municipal council, as a matter of policy, will, hold a public meeting. So you got that? If a municipal council, they want to adopt, amend, or repeal a zoning bylaw, so they will hold a public meeting. Question 87. A board of variance is number 3. A board established by municipalities to determine whether a zoning bylaw creates undue hardships on property owners. So a board of variance is number 3. A board established by municipalities to determine whether a zoning bylaw creates undue hardships on property owners. 111. Most zoning bylaws include density regulations. Which of the following is not a method of measuring density? And the answer is 4, prescribing the maximum lot area per dwelling. That's not a method of measuring density. Okay? The answer is 4, prescribing the maximum lot area per dwelling. But these other things are measuring methods. 1, total floor area of the building in relation to the size of the lot. 2, floor area ratio. And 3, number of dwelling units per hectare. 125, the Local Government Act permits a council to enact certain bylaws relevant to planning. Which of the following areas is not regulated by local government? 125, and the answer is number 4, airports. 125, the answer is 4, airports. So airports not regulated by local government. As far as I know, airports are regulated by the feds. These other things are regulated by local government. 1, land use zoning. 2, subdivision regulations. And 3, building regulations. 185, which of the following is not a rationale for government regulation of land use? And the answer is 3, limiting the power of land developers. This is not a rationale for government regulation of land use. 3, limiting the power of land developers. We all wish it were, but it's not. These are rationale for government regulations of land use. Number 1, protection of property values. 2, public health and safety. And 4, conservation of natural resources. Those are rationale. But limiting the power of land developers, number 3, no, unfortunately not. Page 3, 210. The Health Act, number 3, provides that a local public health department may determine whether or not a subdivision of lands not served by a municipal sewer system can be adequately served by a septic tank system. 210. The Health Act 3 provides that a local public health department may determine whether or not a subdivision of lands not served by a municipal sewer system can be adequately served by a septic tank system. 238. A zoning bylaw may do any of these following things except, and the answer is 4. A zoning bylaw may do all of these. May do all of the above. All right, so this is a sort of a catch-all answer. It can do 1, divide the whole or portion of the area into zones. 2, regulate the use of land. And 3, regulate the number of buildings on a lot. So those are all part of the zoning bylaw. Answer 4. 275. Which answer most accurately describes an official community plan? And the answer is 4. A community plan defines the policy of a local government in terms of existing and proposed land use and servicing requirements and contains specific policies in that regard. So a community plan defines the policy of a local government in terms of existing and proposed land use and servicing requirements, and contains specific policies in that regard. 314. Which of the following is not within the powers granted to the Land Reserve Commission under the Agricultural Land Commission Act? And the answer is 2. This is not a power. The ability to add land to the Agricultural Land Reserve. No, that is not part of their power. So that's the answer. These other things actually are within the power of the Land Reserve Commission. 1, the ability to exclude land from the Agricultural Land Reserve. 3, the ability to pass regulations affecting the agricultural reserve land. And 4, the ability to allow subdivision of agricultural reserve land. So they can exclude land, they can pass regulations, they can allow subdivision, but the Land Reserve Commission cannot, number 2, add land. You got that? I got it. And so let us do page 5. A Board of Variance must hear and determine appeals in a number of important areas. Which one of the following is not an activity of a Board of Variance? And the answer for 564 is 3. To amend a zoning bylaw. The Board of Variance will not amend a zoning bylaw, number 3. But they will, 1, review decisions of building inspectors with regard to damage to a non-conforming use. 2, to hear an appeal where the enforcement of a zoning bylaw will cause undue hardship. And 4, establish a time limit within which construction of a minor variance must be completed. So they can review building inspector's decision about a non-conforming use damage. They can hear an appeal for zoning bylaw enforcement if it's supposedly causing undue hardship. They can establish a time limit to construct a minor variance, but they cannot do number 3. Which is to amend the zoning bylaw. 638. Your client Bard is a developer who owns land in an area zoned for single-family residences. He wants to subdivide his 2.5 acre lot and build 2 24-unit condo projects on the land. Bard seeks your expert advice about how to overcome the land use bylaw obstacles that could prohibit the land development. You correctly advise Bart to fuck off. No, you correctly advise him. 638. Number 2, only B and C are true. B, by making an application for rezoning to the municipal council, a property owner may begin the rezoning process. And then C, a public hearing must be held by the municipal council prior to a change in the permitted land use or density under a zoning bylaw. So the answer was 2, only B and C are true. B, making an application for rezoning to the municipal council, property owner may begin the rezoning process. And C, a public hearing must be held. Get it? So that's what you tell your buddy who wants to subdivide 2.5 acres into 2 24-unit condo projects. 653, a Board of Variance is a board established to, number 4, permit a minor deviation from a zoning bylaw for an individual property owner. Come on, just wait. Oh, yeah, that's right. 653, a Board of Variance is a board established to, 4, permit a minor deviation from a zoning bylaw for an individual property owner. Wow, that's kind of weird. Board of Variance. So I gotta pick a little note here and I will go check it. Role. I gotta check out the role of Board of Variance because it sounds awfully weird. All right, now we're gonna do page 6. 853. Which of the following statements concerning government regulations of privately owned land is true? 853, and the answer is 3. Local governments derive their powers to regulate privately owned land use from the provincial government and may only exercise the specific powers delegated to them. So this is true about government regulations of privately owned land. 3, local governments derive their powers to regulate privately owned land use from the provincial government. So BC government gives City of Surrey power to deal with privately owned land. 869, which of the following are examples of legal non-conforming uses? All right, legal non-conforming uses for 869. And the answer is 4. C and D are legal non-conforming uses. So we're talking about legal non-conforming uses. C, a long-established factory in an area which has just been rezoned from industrial to residential. This is legal non-conforming. It's a factory. It's been there before the land has been rezoned from industrial to residential, so they can stay. And D, a ski rental shop operating for 5 months of the year in an area which has just been rezoned to residential. That can also stay for 869. Answer 4, C and D are legal. So the factory where the land's been rezoned and ski rental shop. Perfect. Page 7, 989. Jake has owned an industrial toxic waste disposal plant in Vancouver for a number of years. The area in which the plant is located was rezoned 1 year ago, and the applicable zoning bylaws do not permit a waste disposal land use. The residents of Vancouver are lobbying the City Council to close down the plant. Number 1 is the answer. Which of the following statements are true? Number 1, only B and C. B, Jake can add to or alter the structure of the plant in future only if required by law or permitted by the Board of Variance. And C, the plant is a legal non-conforming use of the land which may continue indefinitely. So this is true. Let's go it again. Let's go it again. Let's do it again. Number 1, only B and C. So Jake can add B. Jake can add to and alter the structure of the plant in the future only if the law requires it or the Board of Variance permits it. And C, the plant is a legal non-conforming use of the land which may continue indefinitely. We will see. Excuse me. Now we're moving on to Chapter 19, Taxes on Real Property. Question 123. What is an assessment notice? And the answer is 3. It is an extract from the assessment roll concerning a specific property. So if I receive an assessment notice, I will get 3, an extract from an assessment roll of all the people in Surrey and concerning my specific property. 152. Which of the following occupiers of real property would not be liable by statute for the real property taxes? 152. And the answer is 2, the registered holder of a long-term lease. So if you hold a long-term lease, you're registered, you're not liable for by statute for real property taxes. You're so lucky. But all these other entities are liable. 1, the registered owner of a life estate. 3, the registered owner of an estate in fee simple. And 4, the registered holder of an agreement for sale. But if you are a long-term lease registered holder, you don't gotta pay property taxes. So lucky, huh? Let's get a lease. 192. If a property owner considers that the actual value assessment of his property is too high, he must first submit his complaint to his wife. Now, number 1, a property assessment review panel. So say you get your BC assessment, you think it's too high, you're worried about it'll increase your tax, you got to submit your complaint to number 1, a property assessment review panel. Two 36. If you consider the value shown in your assessment notice too high, you may make a formal complaint to number 1, the Property Assessment Review Panel. Wow. 237. 237. What is the assessment notice? And the assessment notice is, number 1, an extract of the assessment rule concerning a specific property. I love these repeats. 257. Whose responsibility is it under the Assessment Act to establish actual value, whatever the hell that is? 4, the assessor. So, number 4, the assessor is responsible to establish actual value under the Assessment Act. Okay, so let the assessors do their job. 265, who determines the real property tax rate for general tax purposes in organized territories of BC? And the answer is number 1, the local municipal council. So organized territories are those places that have local municipal councils, and they would determine the real property tax rate for general tax purposes. 299, who may claim a homeowner grant? And the answer is 4, the owner-occupier of a property. So the owner-occupier of a property, 4, may claim a homeowner grant. 311, in BC's real property taxation system, the actual value of a property is number 4, both 2 and 3. 2, meaning the value shown on the assessment notice. 3, the assessor's estimate of market value. So in BC's real property taxation system, the actual value of the property is 4, both 2 and 3. 2 being the value shown on the assessment notice, and 3, the assessor's estimate of the market value. So you got your BC assessment notice, the value on it, that is the value for taxation, and that is the assessor's estimate of market value. Page 10, 317. Certain classes of properties receive a full or partial exemption from real property taxation. Which of the following would receive either full or partial exemption? And the answer for 317 is 4. All of the above. 1, Crown land is exempted. 2, university property is exempted. And 3, cemeteries are exempted. So if you have Crown land or university property or cemetery, you're exempt from real property taxation. 341, which of the following real properties must be assessed at market value for purposes of real property taxation? And the answer is 3. Residences owned by elected government officials. So if there are elected government officials, they own residence, so their property is also assessed at market value for purposes of real property taxes. These other things aren't. Small house surrounded by warehouse, owned since 1946, or Shell oil pipelines, or land in the agricultural land reserve. No, those are not taxed, and they don't receive a settlement. But residences owned by elected government officials do. 388. In establishing the actual value of a residential property for taxation, tax assessment purposes, the assessor may consider 4, a comprehensive list of factors, including all of those mentioned above in 1, the present use of the property, 2, the location of the property, and 3, the rental value of the property. So the assessor doing the BC assessment every year can use the present use, the location, and the rental value of a property, all the above, number 4. 512, if you consider that the value shown in your assessment notice is too high, you can make a formal complaint to, number 4, the Property Assessment Review Panel. The Property Assessment Review Panel. 514, when can an appeal be made to the Supreme Court of BC regarding a real property assessment value? And the answer is 2, after receipt of the Property Assessment Appeal Board decision, and then only on a point of law. So here's what it is. You say, hey man, my property has been assessed too high. So you complain to the Property Assessment Appeal Board. they make a decision. Once you receive that decision, if there's a legal point inside of it, then you can make an appeal to the Supreme Court of BC. You get that? So the answer is number 2. Page 11. 526. Which one of the following statutes affects the real property taxation system in BC? And the answer for 526 is 2. School Act. So the School Act, it affects the real property taxation in BC. School Act. 534. Under the Assessment Act, the Property Assessment Review Panels may hear complaints when a property has been assessed at too high or too low an amount. Under the Act, when the complainant is someone other than the owner, for 534, 3, an assessor must deliver notice of the hearing to the owner. This is a little complicated, so I'm going to read it again. 534. There's something called the Assessment Act in BC. Under this Assessment Act, the Property Assessment Review Panel, they can hear complaints. When you've got property you think it's been assessed too high or too low. Under that act, when the complainant is someone other than the owner, so for example, it's not the owner, it's somebody else, then number 3, the assessor must deliver notice of the hearing to the owner. So you got to let the owner know what's going on. 599, Jennifer Joseph has lived alone in an apartment since the death of her husband 10 years ago. She has just turned 60 years of age, retired from her job as a bus driver, and wants to begin gardening as a hobby to fill in her retirement years. She's found a small house which is selling at a price she can afford because it is the only residential property in an area of commercial development. The present owners who are anxious to sell have lived in the property for about 20 years and have developed a magnificent garden which appeals very much to Mrs. Joseph. However, she's worried about having enough retirement income to meet the mortgage payments and the property tax payments if she uses all her savings as a down payment. Which one of the following statements is true? For 590, and the answer is 3. Mrs. Joseph may make application to defer payment of the net property tax for as many years as she owns and resides in the house. Wow, what a privilege. 3, Mrs. Joseph may make application to defer payment of the net property tax for as many years as she owns and resides in the house. Woo! 12, 637. Jim O'Hara owns a small office building located on the fringes of downtown Vancouver, BC. He has just leased the building to Citizens for an Everlasting Planet, CEP, a registered charitable organization. In this scenario, 637, 4, none of the above. So what are these none of the above things? Number 1, Mr. O'Hara may apply for a property tax exemption? No. N-O. 2, Mr. O'Hara may apply for property tax relief? No. N-O. 3, CEP may apply for a property tax exemption, and that's also bull crap. So none of the above. 701, the total assessed value. Hey, this is a financial question. Okay, screw it. So this is a math question. I ain't gonna do it. Ain't going to do this one. This is a math cue. 701, do it later. 748, a complaint against the amount of a real property assessment might proceed through hearings by the 4 different bodies listed below. 748, answers 2. BADC, bad C. So B being Property Assessment Review Panel. This is for a complaint about your property. Property Assessment Review Panel. And then A, Property Assessment Appeal Board. D, Supreme Court of BC. And C, the Court of Appeal. So you got that? You send your complaint to the Property Assessment Review Panel. Then it can go to the Property Assessment Appeal Board. Then it can go to the Supreme Court of BC. And lastly, to the Court of Appeal. Page 13, 781. Under the combined provisions of the Local Government Act and the Assessment Act, the owner who is liable to pay the real property taxes includes 781. Number 4. Both A and B are included under the definition of owner. A, where a person is the registered owner of a life estate, the life tenant. B, where there is an agreement for sale and purchase of the real property, the registered holder of the last registered agreement for sale and purchase. So when you're doing your taxes, under the Local Government Act and the Assessment Act, the owner is A and B. So this is the both. It could be the registered owner of the life estate. We also call that the life tenant. And it also could be the registered holder of the last registered agreement for purchase and sale. 838. Which one of the following factors would make a property owner eligible to apply for deferral of real property taxes? And the answer for that is 838 is 3. The property owner is a widower. So widowers can apply for deferral of real property taxes. So nice, huh? 916. Which of the following properties would be fully exempt from the property taxation? Which one of the following properties would be fully exempt from property taxation? And the answer for 916 is 3. A university which permits community groups to use its playing fields during the summer. So university can be exempt from property taxation. The other things are cemeteries and, let me see, cemeteries, universities. Just wait a second, let me get this straight. Cemeteries, universities, and Crown land, those are exempt. All right, 916, 3, university. 948, 948, that's the last one, second last one. 948, 1. So that's another math question. Screw the math questions. I ain't doing math questions over the air. And my last question is another math question, so screw that too. Don't you love it? Yes, I do. Math. All right, I'm done. I am done for this one. And I am so overjoyed. Now, going running. We got one more thing here, which is building design. Oh, we got 2 more. Wow. 2 more. Oh, did we even do this lesson 8? Crap, I haven't even done that. Lesson 8, contracts for real estate. Anyway, we'll check it out.